we are not rare. But before you leave, you will perceive the lore will be unlocked. You might be stalked by a Sasquatch or a ghost witch, possibly even a ghost that will boast about knowing the Ohio Grassman or even the Michigan Dogman. Werewolves hunt, poltergeists are up front, but in these backwoods folklore is unlocked.
Welcome back to Folklore Unlocked. I'm Austin, and like always, I'm joined by Ethan.
Yep, hello again, everyone.
And this week, we are taking a look at the Black Hope Curse, which, before we started recording, me and Ethan kind of decided it's more so a ghost haunting than an actual curse. And a little background before we actually get into the haunting is that it surrounds the former Black Hope Cemetery, which was the 19th century African American cemetery, which the location has been built over by the Newport subdivision of Houston, Texas, which is largely the reason for the hauntings. And the last burial that took place was in 1939, and most who were buried there were former slaves.
And it's one of those things you can't really get mad at the people who built the subdivision because I'm sure probably most of the graves were probably unmarked or stuff like that. So it's not really their fault for building there. So the finding of the skeletons. So Sam and Judith Haney had purchased a house in the subdivision in 1982. And a year later, Sam started plans on a swimming pool in the backyard. So while they were kind of doing the plans for that, an old man showed up at Sam's door and warned him about some buried bodies that had been on the property. And as the man claimed to have buried them when the ground was still a cemetery. So, Sam went with the dig and did in fact find 2 skeletons and 2 coffins with skeletal outlines, where the old man had claimed. Sam called the sheriff and coroner, and 25 bone fragments were found along with 2 wedding rings. So there were definitely some people buried there.
And the bone, just a side note, some of the bones were so brittle that when they went to pick them up, they just crumbled into dust, skeletal dust, or whatever you want to call it.
Bone meal.
Trying to be respectful here. And the skeletons identified. Sam and Judith contacted Jasper Norton, who had been a longtime resident, and reported that he had dug some of the graves when he was younger. And research led to the remains being identified as Charlie and Betty Thomas, with both being born into slavery and being free during the Civil War, and both passing in the 1930s. So, yes, as the way might have suspected, with the wedding rings and the 2 skeletons, they were in fact married.
And after that, reports began because shortly after the reburial of the Thomases, Judith reported her clock started to glow and then also sparking, despite being unplugged. Another night, while Sam was working a night shift, Judith was taking a shower and heard a voice saying, "What are you doing?" And then the next morning, Judith went to get her red shoes, but even with the help of Sam, could not find them until they went outside and they found them on the Thomas's grave. And they found out that it was the day of Betty's birthday and figured it was Charlie getting her a gift, which is kind of sweet, but then also very, very creepy.
And when Judith heard the voice, she just assumed it was Sam. I'm guessing because she was taking a shower and just assumed it would be Sam, even though he was apparently working a night shift. And then we've got another household that had a separate Hang and separate experience, and Ben and Jean Williams, who had moved in roughly at the same time as Sam and Judith. And Jean reported that her plants kept dying and sinkholes kept appearing near the flower beds, creepily always in the shape of coffins. And they also noticed slash marks on a tree on their property. A longtime resident said that he had marked the tree as two of his sisters were buried there. And then after this, that there was in fact two, I believe, were found to be remains located near the tree. And then the shadows along the walls combined with whispers and wrong smells and ice cold air in the middle of summer, especially in Texas, would be odd, start happening.
Now you see, this one I feel like is more creepy than the other one. Like, oh, plants in your flower bed keep dying, the sinkholes in the shape of coffins, the whispering and rotten smells, the ice cold air in summer, all of those being just kind of like weirder, kind of creepier things.
Exactly. Especially if you're not from the US and don't know how hot it can get in Texas, it can get pretty hot down there in Texas.
You know, I'm being
So,
completely honest. If I was going to live anywhere, it'd probably be in that house because it'd be pretty nice to have ice cold air in the middle of the summer. Like, other than like the rotten smells and the plants dying and stuff like that, the ice cold air would be pretty nice.
especially in Texas summers.
Mm. And then there were some legal actions. So Sam and Judith sued the builders for mental anguish, and they were awarded $142,000, which is $461,893.49 today. So a good chunk of money for their mental anguish. But this was reversed on legal grounds that the builders were not liable for this. And Sam and Judith were then ordered to pay $50,000 back to them in court costs, which is $162,638.55 today.
So a good chunk of change either way.
Uh huh.
And the Black Hope curse, or Black Hope Pines, whatever you want to call it, has inspired some pop culture, and it inspired the book The Black Hope Horror and also the movie Grave Secrets. And on to our thoughts, I think like some of the other ghost stories we've covered that's connected to ghost, not so because of the violence that took place, but because it disturbed the burial site of, human remains, which is a big reason in, I guess, ghost lore why hauntings would occur. Kind of like the Curse of Timor Lane, which we've previously covered. They disturbed his resting place, and then bad things happen. This is similar because they disturbed burial sites. Weird things start happening.
Yeah, well, I don't specifically believe in like all these cases or whatever in this story. I do think it's a very, very bad deal overall to mess with burial sites. And if there was one way, one for sure way to get a ghost mad at you, then it's to mess with its final resting place. So I mean, either way, probably don't mess with it anyways.
Yeah, if the curse of Timberlane and the Black Hope curse teaches you anything, don't mess with final resting places.
I mean, there's all of these stories about like the Egyptian curses and stuff too, about the pharaohs' curses
Yeah,
and stuff. So I mean, like, just don't mess with them.
probably I cover some of the Pharaoh's curses in a future episode.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But I think that's all we've got for this week. Next week, we're going to take a look at the Lizzie Borden case. So stay tuned for that. Any last words, Ethan?
Just thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, drop us a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, drop us a comment and a follow, and we'll see you next week.
You might wake up beside Spearfinger with an extended visit from Jack the Ripper. But if you're lucky, it'll be an angel on that range hill of Louisiana. You might meet Mary Laveau or the Road at Folklore Unlocked. Austin and Ethan concoct their theory of the eerie and unexplained around the world, sometimes even the underworld. The lore is locked behind secrets, the folklore is meant to be unlocked. The Sokaloo is haunting NC as well as Tennessee. There are many giants that might be clients of the Dark Watchers, who might have psychokinesis. And the phantom time hypothesis is like a phoenix, coming back around again and again. Though there's a strain on your brain if you've got more than 2 brain cells in you. Some believe McCartney is dead because they read into the Mandela effect, which is subject